Since you are going to a esthetician job interview, what's up you guys? My name is Tess and welcome back to my channel. So in this video I wanted to cover a few things that you will encounter in your first interview as an esthetician. I recently just had my very first interview for an Estie role, and I wanted to share with you guys a few tips as far as what to wear, what to bring, questions that are commonly asked, and give you guys a little bit of an overview. So if you're interested, just keep on watching. Okay, so as far as what I wore on this interview, I definitely did my research ahead of time, and the spa I interviewed at is actually located in my hometown, and so I kind of knew the vibe for the spa was very high-end, pretty chic, stylish, and I just kind of wanted to show off a little bit of my personal style to kind of imply that I would fit in there. So I don't know if this is appropriate for every spa interview, but this is what I wore. I just wore this little blazer. This is from Revolve, and I can link it below for you guys. I love this piece, and it's such a reassuring staple to have in your closet. It's very tailored, so it fits really nice. It has little shoulder pads, which maybe are kind of 80s, but I think give it a really nice kind of shape. The color is neutral, so it can go with almost anything, and I was eyeing this for a while and ended up eventually just buying it and making the investment. It was about $200. I think it was around my birthday, and my mom ended up chipping in because we both knew this was something that was going to give me confidence in the job interview and make me look really professional. You can also wear this on maybe like a date night out and just throw it over some jeans. So it's something I'm going to get a lot of use out of, and that makes it worth it for sure. So I love this. I wore this, and I should really hang it up now that I'm talking about investment pieces. But so I just wore that blazer with some little light colored denim slacks or skinny jeans. These are from Topshop. Topshop has some really great kind of tailored skinny jeans like this, which I think nowadays really is appropriate. I think back in the day you couldn't get away with wearing denim in an interview, and I still would never do that, but I think the light color and the fit kind of makes this acceptable since I'm wearing it with a more formal piece. I wouldn't want to wear that suit with like a matching kind of suit bottom or really like formal trouser, kind of like the ones I'm wearing, just because it would be a little bit too stiff and too much for a spa interview kind of thing. So I wore those slacks and paired it with a really simple white tee that I had ironed just to make sure it looked really professional. And I wore these little loafers. Where are these from? Oh, these are from Urban Outfitters. I can link all of this below for you guys. So the reason I chose this shoe was because I think, again, it kind of showed my personal style, but they're also really comfortable, and I wanted to pick a shoe I knew that I could perform a facial in. So that's the next part I kind of want to touch on. So since you are going to an esthetician job interview, they are probably going to want to make sure you can perform a basic facial or waxing service or treatment, whatever you're really going to be doing at that spa. Just make sure you can perform that task in the outfit you're wearing. So I would stay away from like a high heel. I know when you're working in a spa, you probably want to have a back to these, and you probably wouldn't wear these every day on the job, but I think for an interview, it's more appropriate. Maybe they want you to wear sneakers in the actual workplace, but for a job interview, of course, you want to dress for the job you want. So I think that kind of makes it okay. Just the main thing is to make sure you can perform a facial in the shoes and outfit you're wearing. So I did end up taking off the blazer and having like a comfier t-shirt kind of made doing a facial really doable, but also having that option to throw it on made me seem that much more professional when I was meeting them and shaking their hand. So I also wore my hair back so I could perform the facial, and I didn't wear any rings or anything like that. My nails were short. You could get a manicure if you want. That's kind of like a neutral vibe. And then I would remove any watch when you're actually giving the actual facial, watch or bracelet or necklace that could kind of dangle over your client, which might be your boss. In my case, it was the manager who I was giving the facial to. So I'll touch on that in a little bit, but those are my tips for how to dress. As far as what to bring, I ended up bringing several copies of my resume. You never know if they're going to bring someone else in who wants to take a look at your resume, who maybe doesn't know anything about you. I also ended up bringing my license and my proof of training. I don't know if that's necessary. They never asked for any of this, by the way. They already had my resume printed out when I got there, which is pretty commonplace. But I think it's good to just have all of those in case they were to ask to see proof that you've obtained your license and completed school. So I also carried those in a little file folder. There's all different kinds of little file folders you can get at Target or Amazon, just to make sure it doesn't get wrinkled on the ride over. If you're drinking coffee, it doesn't spill on it, anything like that. And I also like to bring a notebook to job interviews, a notebook and a pen, just so if they're asking if you're available on certain dates, or letting you know important things maybe about your salary that you need to go home and think about and research a little bit more. I think it's always good to have a pen on hand so you can jot those things down. It also makes you look like you're responsible, you're listening, you've done this before, and you're not just sitting there nodding and say, oh yeah, I understand all the details of the job, which you might forget when you go home. Okay, so let's get into questions I was asked on this interview. So first, this is usually the most common question anyone gets asked on the job. They ask you to tell them about your previous work experience and kind of to explain what you did in your probably your last 2 jobs, and really emphasize what you did in your last job. So for me, that involved a totally different career where I was a social media manager in the entertainment world at E-News. But still, that being said, they still kind of want to know that you are a responsible person who cared about their job, who was a balanced person who got along with everyone. So I would just kind of touch on the things that are more broad and that make you appealing as a candidate. Another question I was asked was, this was somewhat unique, but did you report to anyone, and could that manager have done any better? I'm not sure if maybe she wanted to learn something and maybe see if there's things employees think about their managers that she could use to improve herself. But what I'm more thinking is that she wants to see if you ever had kind of a conflict, or if you have any kind of maybe an attitude toward a person of authority. They just kind of want to know what your relationship was like with your boss, and if you were going to be someone who respects them and respects everyone else in the workplace. Another question I am almost always asked in interviews is, what did you do well at your last job, and is there something you think you could improve on, whether it was in your last job, or sometimes people like to ask, what is your weakness, which is a really hard question. I think it's good to kind of have an answer in mind so you don't blurt something out that's gonna make you look really bad. It's kind of a fine line where you do want to kind of admit to something you're working on and show that you're aware that you can improve, but you don't want to like totally bash yourself, if that makes sense. So I mentioned kind of you know, being the sole person in the department at one of my previous jobs, I mentioned I could have done a better job of communicating my needs to my manager and letting them know that I needed more support. That kind of shows that you're capable of taking a lot of responsibility on, but you are aware enough to be able to ask for what you need. And so that was kind of what I said. And the last question I was asked was, why this spa? Why us? I think an employer always wants to know why you're choosing them, and I think they kind of want to hear what makes them special to you, what is going to kind of sustain your energy over time. And I think they want to know that you didn't just, you know, Google spas in this area and go to the first one you saw. So to kind of sum up my entire experience, I would say it's probably like a 7 or 8 out of 10. Some of the things I think I did right were, one, getting there on time. I always like to give myself an hour cushion extra in case of traffic, or well, mainly because I like to get there. I like to find a parking spot, make sure I'm kind of comfortable with the surroundings, and then I like to review their website again, review my resume, and just make sure I'm kind of prepared. And that way I can walk in about 5 to 10 minutes early and kind of just be prepared. The worst thing is being late for an interview and just going into like a full-blown panic attack, so let's avoid that. I also think I dressed the part. I felt confident in what I wore. I felt like I brought the right things, and I felt prepared to answer the questions. I felt prepared to talk about myself and to talk about why I wanted to work there, which is the most important thing. The part where I think I could have improved on is the actual practical itself, which may or may not be the most important part of the interview. So as a new Estie, I was not really fully aware that giving like a full facial was part of the job interview, which sounds so dumb and seems so obvious because that's what you're there to do. You're not there to make sandwiches. So I think I could have kind of gone through the movements, and it was fine. I did feel a little bit shaky because it's such a weird sensation when you're used to a formal interview and you're making that transition in that moment to giving your manager or the person who's interviewing you a facial and, you know, making it relaxing and comfortable for them. So yeah, there's kind of a stretch of time from when you finish school to when you get your license to when your job interview may be. So in that time, I would suggest doing facials on your friends, your mom, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your grandma, whoever, just to kind of stay familiar with the movements and yeah, just make sure you're comfortable and it doesn't seem like something foreign to you. Yeah, I think those are really my main tips, and that was kind of my experience giving the facial. I would definitely check in with her during the facial, ask, is the temperature of the towel okay? Is my pressure okay? Those kind of things. Do you feel like the product's removed? I think those kind of things are good to communicate. And she did stress to me after the facial that she thought I was a great communicator and that she really liked me. So that's always good. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a second part to this interview where I touch on kind of the job offer aspect. Hopefully that helps you guys out a little bit. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope it wasn't boring. I hope it was informative. I love you guys so much, and I wish you guys the best of luck in applying to jobs, and I need luck too. So comment below and wish me luck. Okay, I love you guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you soon.
Tell me about your dreams, tell me everything.